Hi, I'm Paul Friedman, founder of the Marriage Foundation. Today's topic is best to not say these three things to your wife. Hi, welcome back. Paul Friedman from the Marriage Foundation. And this topic, best to not say these three things to your wife. I'm using these three things not so much to illustrate these three things, but so you get a sense that there is a pattern, that there is a science within your marriage. So I'm going to go into some deeper explanations. And the point in doing this is to make you not dependent upon do this, do that kind of things, but to make you consider what's behind what you might be thinking before you say something. Does that make sense? So the first thing, and of course it'll start with you shouldn't say this, but then what we're going to do is get into the reasons why. And there are reasons you probably haven't thought of before. Number one is when you see a woman, and it could be an actress, and you say something along the lines of, wow, she's beautiful. So it's not a good thing to say. And a lot of people think it's okay, like if they're at a movie or something. Now, your wife could say that about her, but you cannot. Let's get into deeper than the psyche. Let's get into what we all know to be a very driving force in human beings, and that is the drive to survive. It's also known as self-preservation. And we all know about self-preservation because we learned about it all the way back in middle school. And we know that that is in every single cell that's living, is this self-preservation attribute. And it's a very different manifestation in a man compared to a woman. So if your wife says something like, hey, that's a handsome guy. I mean, you might give her an eyebrow or something that's really not going to bother you. Why is it such a bother? And she may deny this, but don't believe that. Why would it bother your wife if you point out the beauty of another woman? So, self-preservation is all about survival. And when you have trillions of cells, which comprise your body, it is driving your mind to preserve, to protect yourself. And in a man, it manifests in one way. In a woman, it manifests in another way. So in a man, self-preservation is all about being dominant, being stronger. But in a woman, it's all about being more attractive. Being attractive for a woman is her power. And you might say, well, I know some pretty ugly women, and they still feel their power. They don't know they're ugly. And you're not here to point out their attractiveness or unattractiveness, but your wife, part of how in her mind, her subconscious mind, how she won you over was with her beauty. And you are effectively her possession. Why? You're her possession because a woman's psyche is all about, even if you don't have any, it's all about raising children, nurturing the children as they grow up, and being with the kids. And for that, again, this is subconscious mind. She needs a man who's going to die for her, and even more importantly, for her kids. A woman will sacrifice her life for her kids just like that. And men say they will, But it's not the same as a woman. A woman will do this every time. And so this idea, and you could see it's a little bit complicated, but what happens is she sees her own beauty as that which captivates and holds you. And any weakness in that will have her thinking, oh my God, let's pretend you say it. Her mind is going to go into a million different directions. Like, what does she have that I don't have? Being competitive. She'll go, am I fat? Am I getting old? Am I losing my figure? And you don't want that. Okay, so here's where we go a little bit deeper. You want your wife to feel as secure about your being with her as you possibly can. And, women, especially in the West, tend to show off their power. Oh, I don't really need you. I could live without you. I'm fine. And they may even think that way, but deep down, and I don't mean in their heart, but in their subconscious mind, they have to have you. And you don't want to take that for granted. You don't want to take advantage of that. You want your wife to always know, based on how you speak, how you interact with her, how you interact with others, that she's the queen. No one comes close. It's a very, very important understanding to have here, because you don't want to step on this. You don't want her to be at all insecure. So you could go the opposite way. If you see a beautiful woman, literally, you could look at that beautiful woman by mistake, because you don't want to be looking at other women in front of her, but maybe in a movie or something, and you go, she's nothing compared to you. She's not going to necessarily believe you consciously, but subconsciously, it's going in there and it's making a beneficial impact. Number 2 is, hey, you're not listening. Now, you could say that to one of your kids, but try and understand that she may not really be grasping what you're saying, but to call her out on it and say, hey, you're not listening, is, from her perspective, a reflection of her intelligence. And the interesting thing is that women and men have very different kinds of intelligence. Like, a man can figure things out. Sometimes not so easily, but we could figure out a way to figure something out. But a woman relies much more on her intuition. And this is an important factor. So you never, again, it goes back to never wanting to undermine her self-worth, how she sees herself. And so if she responds to you about something and you say, hey, you're not listening, what you're saying effectively is, are you stupid? And what you really want to be saying is, oh, really? How do you see it? What's your intuition say is a good thing to say. Now, why is this so important? It's important, and I use this particular don't do this because I want to point out that you didn't marry your wife because she's the smartest kid in school. And she might have been. But we marry women because they have an open heart. And men typically do not have an open heart. Men have to really work at learning how to open their heart, how to not just express love, but even just to feel it. Let me give you an example. It's easier that way. So I used to be a divorce mediator, And then in 2001 is when I began helping people heal and save their marriage. And when I worked with men, all of them basically, when they came to see me, they said, okay, I don't know what's going on. My marriage is screwed up. I don't know what's going on. Just tell me what I have to do. As if that's going to work. Because from a man's perspective, a man goes, apply pressure on terminal A, connect the wire to terminal B, and there might be a short in between, and let's fix it. And mechanically, sure. But the connection that we have with our wife is intended to be a connection of love. We call our wife our soulmate, don't we? And so what does that actually mean? And this is important. I'm not trying to go off on a tangent. I'm trying to help you understand something that is very profound and very deep. You married your wife because you wanted to be happy. And what really made you happy is that you felt love. And that love, the mind is not what's in love. The mind doesn't feel love. It's the heart. But what the mind does is it creates a barrier between ourselves, our true self, and our wife. And part of having a great marriage, honestly, is learning how to transcend the mind. Your wife is already operating on this, I'm going to call it a higher level, because frankly, love is a much higher level. By far, the smallest amount of love, the smallest particle of love, is a much greater entity than the greatest intellect. Intellect doesn't compare. Love knocks your socks off. And so what you want to do is you don't want to drag conversations down into intellectual conversations with your wife. You want to operate on the level of love. And so you have to be careful to not have this expectation of her as an intellectual counterpart. There's a lot these days of matching personalities. None of that works, because that's not where marriages work. Marriages work on the bridge of love. And we want to learn how to love the way your wife loves, to be honest with you. That's what it's all about. I'm bringing this up, this number 3, because so many men have been ruined by pornography. So this is, let's try this. And you know what I mean by that. Let's try this sexually. Maybe you saw something, maybe somehow you saw some porn, and, it looks fascinating to you. And I'm not going to lecture you. That's not what this is about. But I will tell you this, that sex in a marriage is awesome when it's a manifestation of love. And when it is a manifestation of the love that you two feel for each other, you don't need to try this or try that. Now, it'll happen sometimes that you'll get carried away with each other, but love between you and your wife is intended to be a spiritual connection. And when you bring that into your bedroom, that spiritual connection, and you move very slowly into sex mode from love mode, and you really want to hold back your body and its passions from interfering with how you feel, the love that you feel. You want to hold that back. You don't want to be trapped in sex. Why not? I know in porn, these women look like they're just so into it. And there are some women who have kind of male attributes who are into sex. But even if your wife has that, it's really not natural for the woman to be driven by sex the way a man is. Remember what sex is. It's a biological drive in order to satisfy the procreative needs of the species to keep going. And what happens is, because mankind has a wonderful mind and great imagination, we like to take things and kind of twist it around to be more entertaining. So I've broken down sex, and you'll see this in my books, and you'll see this in my course for men, into two general categories. One is recreational sex, and the other is love. And you really don't want to go into recreational sex very often because, frankly, it'll create boredom because it's of the body, bodies change, and it doesn't help develop the connection that you have with your wife if you get involved in recreational sex. Now, once in a while, or part of the sex act, to have a little recreation in there, it's not like a sin or something. It's fine. But you really want to focus on building the love that you and your wife got married for in the first place. So those are the three things. I hope you are getting from this that there's much more to marriage than meets the eye. When I was a divorce mediator, I thought divorce was cool. You know, you've had enough of somebody, just get a divorce. It wasn't until this couple asked me to help them save their marriage that I did a deep dive into marriage and realized, wow, there is a science to marriage, and a marriage that's truly functioning as it's meant to function, because there is a meant to here. It's off the charts. There's nothing like it. So I hope you like this video, like it. You could even subscribe to the channel, and you could leave a comment, and you should visit our website. I'm Paul Friedman. I founded the Marriage Foundation. I'm really glad you stopped by. God bless you and take care. Thanks.